Yeah, we were in West Covina, so I spoke, and it was outside, and then I drink cold water. Horrible mistake. I was just thirsty, and then I think that messed me up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good.
Jeez.
Yep.
All right.
Ready to do this.
Yeah, let's do this, man. Welcome to the Soul Tapes podcast. My name is Adam Cruz.
My name is Antonio Reyes.
Yeah, man. We are excited to pod today.
Yes.
To have conversations as we always do. If you're listening for the first time, we like to get together and just have conversations about different topics about life, culture, business, faith, and yeah, we go there. So
Yep. We go there.
Yeah. So I was having a conversation with Antonio, and I was just thinking about this word influencer. This is a word that has had a lot of has created a lot of popularity amongst different generations, and more recently in the past 10 years, this word has definitely been something that has been used more and more and more, and I find it interesting because I think that when we think of that word, depending on who you're talking about, the first thing that comes to my mind is social media.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but that tends to be the first thing that I think comes to our mind now when we think of what does it mean to be an influencer, right? And before we dive into any of that, I mean, I guess I want to start with that question. Like, when you think of what does it mean to be an influencer, what comes to your mind?
In a very superficial way, yeah, I think social media is the first one, right? The people that are visible per se,
yeah,
right?
That's
people
good.
that we kind of we're able to see in maybe in a platform, and that could be across the board. It doesn't have to be live, but I think it's people that are visible that we tend to identify like they're influencers, and because I think there's a correlation between influencer and leader, right? But I mean, just for the sake of the conversation, let me just stay in the influence piece. And I think that to me, I mean, the purpose of the conversation is the understanding that we have influence everywhere, and anyone has influence some sort of way. Yeah. So I think for me, influencing people comes with a responsibility, but also I think that you don't ask for it necessarily. It's not something that you ask for. It's I feel like it's given to you to a certain extent. I don't know if that makes sense.
All right. So I like where we're going with this. So you're thinking, what you were saying, that there are certain people that influence is almost given to them. So, and would you suggest that certain people with a larger platform or larger, like you said, people that are more visible, they're kind of giving a different level of influence, you would suggest?
That's a great question. I think that someone who obviously endorses faith and is informed by faith, I do believe God entrusts you with influence some sort of way.
Yeah.
Right? Now, there's a difference between you have an influence, I think, and you exploding and being visible, because you can explode and be visible by any dumb thing.
Yeah.
Now,
viral videos, things like that.
Did they have influence? Yeah, but I think there's a difference, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think. I'm
trying to process this right now.
I know.
As we speak.
Well, this is why I think this topic is so interesting to me, because I think there's different levels of influence. So I think what you're bringing up in this idea of is there are certain people, especially nowadays, that will have the 15 seconds of fame on social media because they did a funny video, and they might have a certain degree of influence because now they have thousands of followers. So I'm thinking of, like, for example, the guy who did like the ocean spray video, the guy who was skating. Did you see that video?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So so to me he's like the most recent character of like, oh, okay, posted a random video, doing what he usually does, and then boom, now the whole world knows about him, right? Yeah. So you can argue, like, does he have some kind of influence? Yeah, influencing people who maybe never even heard of that ocean spray, cranberry juice brand or whatever. Now, so that's one side of influence that's a little more superficial, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's like surface level.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking is there's other levels of influence. So there's that, and then there's the people that, like you were saying, someone who might have more, someone of a person of faith, or someone who, is an actor, or someone who's an athlete, or someone, and they have a voice that they want to impact people's lives in a way that might be different than just entertainment, which to me, don't get me wrong, like I think entertainment is important and great, and there is ways to influence people in a powerful way. But there's differences, right? So I think that's where the word influencer, influence can be broken down in multiple levels, because it's not just a one. You can't just attribute it to one thing in one way, and it makes sense for everyone.
Yeah, no. I think that you make a great point by describing it that way. The different levels of influence. Some can be superficial. Some can be very deep. Some other ones can. It has to do with pulling something out of you. And so on and so on. But I think that we encapsulate all of them in one thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because we don't know what is the difference between one and the other, right? And I think we're going to talk about influence, right? I think it's important to understand that the way we use influence in our lives, the way we influence people matter, of course. And I think that's where I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about that. Because we tend to not take responsibility for the way we influence people.
Yeah.
Because I was literally having this conversation in last year. I think we were in Christmas or something.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about I'm gonna bring it up. Between who is better, Nicki Minaj or Cardi B, right? And I don't listen to their music.
Yeah.
Right. I don't listen to their music. But if you give me an option, I'll say Nicki Minaj for me.
Why?
Right? She has more bars for me.
Yeah.
I get Cardi. I mean, she has her own style, and I mean, right now she's kind of like
the more
one
popular.
of the biggest ones.
Yeah,
but to me, I feel like Nicki has a better way to deliver. And so I don't know. Maybe because I grew up with her from 2009 to like. This.
Yeah.
But anyways, the conversation, I don't want to go there. But the conversation got to the point where no, it's I was saying that to me, unfortunately, character-wise, I will neither or are someone that I appeal to.
Yeah. Their music is not for you.
Right. Yeah. And also their person, the way because I think the appealing thing about Cardi B is that to a lot of people is that she's herself and she speaks her mind.
Yeah, she's raw. She's just kind of who she is. Yeah.
And she speaks her mind and she says whatever she wants to say, right? And people are attracted to that.
Yeah.
And I was telling Gabby's cousins, my wife's cousins, I was like, you need to be responsible for that. You can't just say whatever the heck you want. And I think that has no effect on people. And they were like, no, it doesn't matter. I was like, yeah, because you are influencing people. And they were like, no, she doesn't want to be an influencer. I was like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She is she's influencing people. So to me, that's what concerns me the most. That we're not conscious of the way we influence people many, many times. Now, this in a superficial way, right? But I think that's the way many of us perceive. We want to be the next David Dobrik.
Yeah. But I think that story to me is exactly to the T why I think this is so important, because I think what we do is that we look at someone like Cardi B and input any artist or any person who has millions of followers, and we say, oh, that person's an influencer, and like your family member whatever saying, oh no, but she doesn't want to be, what they're really trying to say is she doesn't want to be a role model. Right. Is that, oh, don't follow her in everything that she does. She's just funny and she's just a character, and it's like, no, like the reality. So to me, what I would say is it's not that whether she wants to be or not, she's an influencer. I think whether anybody wants to or not, we are all influencers, because whether you have 1 million followers or you don't even have social media, you might just have your friends and family, your coworkers, the people you interact with on a daily basis. I do believe that we are all having the ability to influence people. And I think that that's where we want to kind of like let go of responsibility on
Yeah.
the actions that we take.
Yeah.
You know, and
You're
that's
right.
where I think people would rather be like, no, I'm not that person. I'm not that, you know, I don't need to be this morality person. I don't need to be this faith person, because I don't want to be responsible for my actions. I don't want to be responsible for my words, because they do have power, like we've talked about before.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I think that's a really great story.
I think you make a great point. You know, like obviously, maybe perhaps influence exists in a different spectrum for everyone else, right? For some, it's granted to influence millions.
Yeah.
For some other ones, like you said, is maybe choose my family, maybe
Yeah.
choose my cousins, maybe
Yeah.
choose my people in proximity with me.
Yeah.
And but that doesn't matter. You don't have someone that you have influence. But I think that yeah. Now, let me ask you this. I want
Yeah.
to hear your thoughts about it. What is the conversation that we need to have in regards to taking responsibility for the way we influence people? What should be like? I don't want it. Let's say someone says, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't want to have this
Yeah.
responsibility, but you do have it,
Yeah.
right? What is for you? What is the conversation that we need to be having with that?
Yeah. So for me, the way that I approach these conversations with people and my perspective is that I try to break it down and to shed light into the ways that they're already. So my thing is like I think that people always like to say, oh, I'm not easily influenced. So people will always say that in the sense of, oh, I can watch certain shows, I can listen to certain music, I can, you know, be around certain people. I'm not easily influenced by that. You know, I could say I'm kind of that person where like I know that I can do, you know, be in different atmospheres and be like, no, I'm myself. But the reality is we might think, oh, I'm not easily influenced, but we don't even realize how much we're being influenced by the things that we're consuming or the people that we're around.
Yes.
And that's my thing is of what I think that conversation needs to start with is saying, listen, if you're someone who's saying, I don't want to be that influencer person in the world around me, I don't want to have to step up for the people around me, I just want to live my life, I just want to do what I'm doing. But, you know, the reason why this conversation is so important to me is because to me, this is what my firstborn brand is all about, is that disregarding, taking away the person that has millions of followers. Let's talk about the person that has 10. When you talk about the 20 people in your life, these are people that you have the ability and are already influencing. You know, you think about, you know, family, the generational curses, they might call them, or like family traditions where, you know, the dad did something a certain way. Now the son's doing it the same way. That's not coincidence.
Yep.
It's that there's influence there, right? Yep. So to me, it's like, I think that when someone has that perspective, I would like to I think what you're doing is you're kind of like putting like a covering over your eyes and saying, I just want to walk blindly and I don't want to actually be exposed to what's really going on right now. Because what's really going on is I don't want to be an influencer, but I have a younger nephew and niece or cousin or someone who's watching me. Watching my every move, how I work, am I taking responsibility for my actions? Am I speaking a certain way? Am I doing these things? And when we say, no, like, I don't really want to be responsible for that, what we're saying is I don't want to be responsible for affecting somebody else's life in a positive or negative way. And the reality is I think that we should care about that more. Maybe like we can't, you know, this is why we ask for forgiveness, right? Because we're going to constantly make mistakes and never do this right. But even within the ability to ask for forgiveness is already you taking steps and responsibility and saying, I know that I have the ability to affect people in my life. So I needed to show that it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah, man, you just uncovered a piece that is very important, right? Which is the whole family piece, you know, an avenue that we don't what we do is not by accident. We learn it from our family, right?
Yeah.
The patterns, the behavior, all those things we learn it from our family. Now, obviously, because you and I are surrounded by a lot of people and we have conversations with people, many times we can focus on blaming our past so much and blaming our surrounding and our family.
Totally.
That we have the power to change that. We have the power to take a different route, to unlearn a lot of things, and to develop a legacy, a different legacy, right? That they don't have to experience what perhaps we experience and the brokenness of our family, and I think for me that's a reality. For me it's a reality. I had conversations with my brothers, I had conversations with my cousins about this. Like, we have the opportunity to reimagine the future of our family. We can change this, right? Now that's an important thing, because if we don't want to take responsibility for that, then I will say it's unfair for us to keep judging our family or our past, because we're not willing to take responsibility to change and make the necessary changes to move to the future. So I think that this is beautiful, because it brings all the way down to our family only. Let's just talk about our family. Let's just talk about our cousins. Let's just talk about the people in proximity to us. Like you say, we have the power to influence them in a different way, and I think that that's so important. That's so important. And also, we have the opportunity to show our family what is possible to do, right? Because let's talk, like, at least in the Latino community, right? Sometimes, if you notice, maybe in the Caucasian circle, when you ask a kid, what do you want to become? Well, I want to be a doctor. I want to be an architect. I want to be this. I want to be that. Because they've seen that.
Yeah. They've had the examples.
They've seen that. They know that that's possible.
Yeah.
But in the Latino community, many times, we might probably never seen that. So we don't know how to sometimes dream that far, because we don't know if it's possible.
Yeah.
So we have the possibility to actually break, the limitations and the standard of our family, and to show the people behind us, even the people around us, that it's possible to achieve beyond just what we know. So I think that's such an important conversation. It's just not on learning things, but also moving people towards a place they probably never thought about it.
Yeah, and that's what's important, as far as I think that also, when what you're getting at too is like that understanding that the simple conversations, or being able to, when you take the posture of an influencer, when you take the posture of someone who is actually accepting the fact that, hey, there are people around me that I actually have an ability to change the trajectory of their life. And that might sound big, or that might sound like, oh my gosh, that's so extra. Like, no, but the thing is that when you're saying something like that, I think is amazing. Like, you take these kids in certain aspects who might never have thought or dreamed of what is out there in this world that is bigger than what they've experienced. Then you're able to implant dreams, like we've talked about before, like, creating new futures. That's a part of that, and that's a part of what it means to be an influencer, is this ability to say, hey, let me teach you something, let me show you, let me impart wisdom, let me give you these words, because I know that there's something that you might be able to do that you never even thought of. And that to me is awesome. I'm thinking of,
that's so good.
I'm thinking of the example that's coming to my mind is like someone like Michael Jordan. Okay, so we think about great people in this world. We think about the people that have had major influence, and so many times, not all, because of course you have the fam, like we talked about, the family that was there to kind of guide you, and people that didn't have that example. But for a lot of people, we see the examples of someone like Michael Jordan, who, when he thinks about where did this discipline come from, where did this level of competition come from? Where did this desire to just work hard, to put all this effort in? A lot of it came from his father. A lot of it came from his brothers, these relationships in his family. If you ever watched The Last Dance on the documentary,
love that documentary.
Yeah, like that's one of his biggest influences. His when I think about someone who probably influenced him the most, it was his dad.
Yeah.
He
almost collapsed when his dad died.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think how powerful that is. So again, as a father, right? As someone who you have a child, you have a family, like the level, I'm just thinking about this, like I'm sure in that family, when 40, 50 years ago, whatever, before Michael Jordan became who he was, like, you would have never thought anything of that family, of the last name Jordan, whatever that is. Like, it was just a dad raising his kids, right? But all the work and effort and intentionality in just wanting to influence your kids, wanting to be there, like, it's not that it has to be, I'm sure and certain that it wasn't like he went into it, oh, I'm going to raise my kids because I want them to be the next, whatever. It was just, I just want to be there for my kids to just, be a good dad or to do what I think is right. Yeah. And you just never know. And I think that's what's important about being an influencer and taking that posture, is you just never know who you're influencing and what is that going to do for their future.
Yeah, because you can set someone up for success, right? The way you influence someone, I mean, one of my desires, because I seen it in people around me and mentors, that I think a lot of my mentors, a lot of my people in proximity with me, the people that influenced me, have set me up for success. They have built a platform, quote unquote, in different levels, and they have set me up for that place, right? So the influence is not just I'm just gonna influence your behavior, but I'm actually creating opportunities for you too.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing, because I was listening to an interview with TD Jakes, and he has this organization, and he's raising money to actually teach kids in his neighborhood, or in the hood, how to learn how to code.
Oh yeah. To like do coding, like engineering.
There you go, and engineering, right? Mm-hmm. Because his thing is, I want them not just to develop apps, I want them to own them. I don't want them just to have organizations. I want them to own them. I don't want them just to be part of a business. I want them to own the business. So he's trying to set up kids and this is in a big spectrum, obviously, but the reality is that we have the possibility to do something similar, right? To set someone up for success with the way we influence someone, opening doors the way that probably they would never be able to open themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I think that going back to the Michael Jordan and the way he's that influence, obviously the parents are the biggest influences in our lives, right?
Yeah.
A huge part of our identity is developed by what they say to us, right? Yeah. And the way they behave and what they teach us. But I think that we need this type of influence more than ever, because obviously there's a lot of people growing up without those figures.
Yeah.
Those people.
And
right?
That's why I think it's so much more important for the 20-year-old, the 25-year-old, the 30-year-old who is seeing their life surrounded by, whether it's your own family or other kids around you, because of that very reason, because of the fact that there are kids and people that have grown up without that father figure, without the support of a strong family. I think that's why God uses certain people and uses us to be able to make influence and have impact in other people's lives, because we can fill those gaps. And I think that's what is important for us to understand, that when we take ourselves, and that's something else, going back to what you asked, like, how can we have those conversations with people who don't want to take that posture or responsibility, is taking yourself out of the lens of this, that my life is only about me. And that's something that really frustrates me, is like, it's like when people are like, oh, I'm just like, I just want to work a job, I just want to do what I want to do. It's always about it's me. And it's like, you know what, like, I think we're really selling ourselves short, not realizing that we have the ability to impact people. And it doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be Instagram worthy. It doesn't need to be these things. We compare so much to, oh, well, I can't do it like this. But it's like, no, it doesn't. We're that's a distraction. I saw a quote on Instagram, I think it was today, but it said like, we mistake opportunity. We mistake distractions as opportunities when we don't have direction.
Wow.
And that's to good. Me, that quote really stood out to me, because I'm like, man, it's so true. Like, we'll take anything and be like, oh, like, let's do it. And it's like, but if we're on track, I know for me, when I have a goal, when I'm like, no, I'll say no to a bunch of things because I know I need to get this done.
Even if they're not bad.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So I just think that that's what's really important. I think that when we're able to have a goal in our life and be able to pursue that, and part of that goal shouldn't just be create a life that's great for us only.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm switching the line that we're talking about, but let's talk about the whole idea of like we have this necessity to post everything that we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything that we do good for people, right? This whole thing of like giving money, giving people, providing anything, right? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like, but we want to do that and we want to encapsulate that, right? And there's a lot of beautiful things happening that are not being captured in social media, right? We were just talking about that. You know, our community, our church, you know, one of the things that I remember, we had the opportunity to come in partnership with the city of Long Beach to provide meals for people. You know, they just needed a location so that we can bring people and do all that, right? And we partnered up. We provide volunteers and all this stuff. And I remember Pastor Josh telling us, he said, we're not going to post this in social media. If you're going to help, we're not going to post this in social media. We don't want to brag about what we're doing. Let's do what we have to do and let's serve this community. And I think that violates who we are as millennials. You know, like you're telling me to do something that I want to capture.
It's like poster didn't happen.
Right? But it's so true. You know, there's a lot of beautiful things happening with a lot of people, with a lot of organizations that they might not be in social media, but they're actually doing a great job in their surroundings and their circle of influence.
Well, I think it's funny that I'm sure you've experienced this before, where whenever we want to validate an organization or a person, what is the first thing we do? We check their social media following. We say, it's like, oh, I've heard about this. Oh, you only have 200 followers? Like, what are you doing? Like, you know, and it's misleading. And to me, that's another big point that I wanted to like talk about is like, you know, we think about, like you talked about, like TD Jakes, like how he has the ability, he's doing this great thing. And I guarantee there's millions upon billions of people who don't even know who he is, don't even know what he's doing. And for us, in our eyes, because of the way we've been trained and thinking about like things online and looking at these numbers, we would hear that and say, oh, then what he's doing is meaningless. Yeah. What he's doing, or not meaningless, but it doesn't it's not as much impact as somebody else. And my question is, like, does that mean that he should not do that? Or does it mean that is there a misunderstanding of our or how much of a level of impact and influence we actually have? Yes. Because I think that's what we do. I think we minimize the level of influence we actually have the ability to have. Yeah. And because of the fact that we start to downplay things because we're like, oh, it's not, you know, it's only, you know, tens, it's not hundreds, it's only hundreds, it's not thousands, it's only thousands, it's not millions. And then we think because it's smaller in number, we think that it's not as valuable. And I think that's where we start to make mistakes when it comes to the ability to influence people. I mean, I think of, you know, if we want to go to the Bible, we think of Jesus. I mean, he could have had how many followers he wanted. He could have had a mega church if he wanted, but he had 12. And through that 12, he was able to change the world.
Yeah, no, you're so right. And I think in the same page, and this is something that I struggle with, that you don't need to own anything to actually influence someone. Yeah. Because we have this misconception. Once I become this, then I can actually do that. Right? Yeah. Once I become millionaire, I can buy you a house and I can support you. It's like, yeah, thank you, appreciate it. Yeah. But how about right now? Yeah. What can you do? What difference can you do right now with what you have? And I think this is something that I struggle with once again. And I think it's because the way we are set up in society is that you need to own something. You need to have a degree. You need to have this. You need to have that. So actually you can be influential. And I think that's so, you know, that's a misconception because it's not true. Yeah. And obviously social media breaks that down in pieces because perhaps the most popular people right now, some of them, they don't own necessarily, but now they do because of their income. But I think we need to come into a place. If I'm entrusted with this, what this is can be whatever. My family, my friends, my coworkers, my friends that I play sports with. Like, what am I doing with that? That matters.
Yeah, and I think, just as I'm thinking about this conversation, I think that we have to understand that some people are just waiting for it, man. Like they're waiting to be led. They're waiting they just have a need and desire. And and I think, and I don't want to discredit that, because I think we all find ourselves in seasons where we feel that need to just have someone in our life who can really influence us in a good way. And I think that's where it's important, where we're able to start to understand these things in a way of, hey, sometimes, man, you're going to be the one to I just needed this relationship, this conversation to guide me, to help me. And sometimes I'm going to walk in and I'm going to be able to influence you and to help you. And it's like, it's a reciprocal relationship. And I think that's where we have to continue to view our world, where there's going to be some days I might feel off and I don't know why. And that's where I do have the ability to have people in my life who can help me through those seasons. And sometimes I might feel great, and I might be able to go into people's life and go about my day and have the ability to impact people in a greater way. So I think it's just being aware, and that's what I think is most important, is just being aware of the fact that we have the ability to create influence.
Totally. And you say something key, it's both ways, right? It's reciprocal. We having someone that influences us and someone that we can influence too. And I feel like a lot of people have an issue with being influenced by someone. Obviously, we like to be influenced by people that they have a lot, right?
Yeah.
We want to be influenced by those people.
Yeah.
But
totally.
we don't want to be influenced by someone who can help us in a different aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so important, because we're okay with the idea sometimes of saying, hey, yeah, I'm willing to influence these people, but we don't like to be influenced by. And that comes down to like maybe having difficulty with authority and people and all that. But I think that's important. Like we need to, and maybe the influence comes different ways, right? Maybe I'm influenced by someone in my education, maybe someone emotionally, like in the way, in character wise, right? Maybe some other ones in different aspects in life. And I think that's the beauty of having access to social media, right? And having access to books, right? Because we don't like to read a lot. But that's the way a lot of people have a lot to say, that they're not able to mentor one by one. They encapsulate their thoughts in books, and they can mentor people. Yeah. So I think, yes, man, I love it. I love this conversation.
Yeah, no, I think it's good, man. And I think that my kind of final thought on this is what you were saying right now is we have to be careful, because that's where I think we get influenced by social media and the things around us, is that we devalue someone who's willing to step into our lives and help us because they're not, the top person in this industry. Yeah. They're not the one with the most followers. They don't, have a social media presence. And we think, man, like, thanks for helping me out, but I wish this person was helping me out because, then it would give me more credibility or whatever. And we just start to value people based on who they know, how many people know them. And I think that's where we make a big mistake, because there's people in our world that have a great ability to influence us if we would let them. And I would also say that also creates gratitude and understanding that, man, how thankful we can be for people in our life who might be willing to shed some wisdom, might be able to guide us, to help us. And it doesn't have to be these people that we see online, these people that we never know. And that's something that I've learned to value more, is disregard everything that's online. The fact that there's people in my life who care enough about me to enter into my world and to be able to impact me in ways, when I can see that is like God's hand over my life, and I can be really grateful for those things when I see them. So it's, we have to learn to see not only when we can be influencers, but when other people, we are allowed to see the value in people that are willing to influence us in good ways.
Yeah, man. You said it. You said it all. Who, Nicki or Cardi B?
I know. I was literally. When you brought that up, I was like, man, if you want to go there, we can go there. We'll turn this podcast into a whole nother conversation. You know what, man? I've grown to appreciate Cardi B as an artist. because I'm kind of with you on the Nicki Minaj. To me is one of the best female rappers ever. Like you can't bait like when. So to me, I have a hard time with this conversation because her rapping ability is undeniable.
Yes.
And Cardi is a performer.
Yeah.
And she has help, and she does put together songs that are good. But if you're talking about pure rap skills, I'm going with Nicki.
Yep.
So
I feel it. And like I said, I mean, I don't deny Cardi B's ability.
She's entertaining.
She's talent.
Entertaining.
And obviously, she appeals to what is needed right now.
Yeah.
So, but I'm with you, you know?
Yeah. Well, with that being said, you know, one thing I want to end with this podcast is, you know, be an influencer and share this podcast with a friend. You know, again, we are hoping that these messages are helpful and that these conversations are something that, you know, has the ability to just shift your perspective, shift your day. So
and we out.
My mind at night, a playlist of the greatest hits. I played them till my mind is bright. I kinda like when everything inside is nice, but talking about my problems ain't an option unless the night is right.